Hello everybody and welcome to our daily check-in. I am outside. It is beautiful out here. So yesterday I did a video on gratitude, like a scavenger hunt, which I thought was kind of a fun activity to do. My wife introduced me to it, and I know her students are doing it, so I thought it'd be nice to share with you guys this particular gratitude. So it made me think about what I want to talk about today. So I really wanted to talk about gratitude, but maybe a little bit different. Now, since we've been kind of stuck in our houses and we haven't really gone out as much, I mean, maybe some of you have been able to get out, which is great, but if you're mostly home, I always try to imagine, what would this have been like if, when I was in sixth grade, okay, what this would have looked like? Well, for one, there was no internet, right? So you couldn't be doing these virtual classrooms. And, there was no FaceTime because, one, there were no cell phones. Not really. So it would have been very difficult to communicate with people and actually see their faces. I mean, it's funny because when I was a kid, getting physical mail was cool. But then as I got a little bit older, I wanted to get digital stuff because I thought it was cool, it was new. But now it's like getting anything physical is kind of nice because everything we do is digital. So I want to talk about some stories of when I was younger and even when I was in college about technology and how I am grateful for this situation. When I was younger, I used to have to share a room with my sister. I think I was probably in kindergarten. But I remember as I was growing up, I know my sisters used to listen to records. I know my parents, when they were young, they listened to like 45s and albums too. I mean, people still listen to records. I don't want to, in case you don't know what it is, it's kind of like a big circular thing you put on a record player, and it has a very cool sound to it. But pretty much my generation, we kind of got introduced into the cassette, okay? So a cassette, it's like this. It's one of your cassette's most favorite sidekicks is a pencil, because the cassettes would always come like undone, and you'd always have to take the pencil and make it right. So what I was trying to talk about basically is when I got my room, I was so excited the first time I got a boom box. Now you're probably like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. So now this is a radio. I would not classify this as a boom box, but it's basically something that you can play cassettes on. But the boom boxes were much bigger. And I remember being able to put a cassette in and headphones, and listen to music. And the headphones back then were trash. I mean, they were just like these little dinky things in your ears. They weren't great. But I remember being able to listen to music and thinking it was the best thing ever. Now, there came a time, though, when, maybe I didn't have the cassettes or whatever it was, but I wanted to maybe listen to the music when I wanted to listen to it, as opposed to, waiting for the radio to play it. So what you would do is you would buy blank cassettes. Now, there was no Amazon, right? So you actually go to the store and you would buy them. And when you come back, you'd peel the plastic off, and you would always want to maybe put it like on extended play or something so you get the most out of it. And you would wait in the morning, when they would have like Casey Kasem and his top 40 countdown, and he would put the music on, or we'd listen to classic rock, and you'd have to wait just for the right time and push the record button down. And then just near the end of the song, when you're like, yes, I got the song, it's going to be awesome, I can't wait to listen to it, the radio disc jockey, the host, would start talking and ruin it. You'd be like, oh, you get so frustrated. So then you'd have to wait. It wasn't like it was coming back on. So as time went on, you were able to download, certain songs that you wanted to listen to, but it took forever. Because when I was in college, I remember I would turn our computer on, and like I could literally have breakfast, I could do some schoolwork for college, whatever it was, maybe make tea or something, and the computer would still be like turning on and getting ready to go. It would take like literally like 20 minutes. It was terrible. So I'm grateful now to a computer, and it's funny because when you are missing certain things, certain technologies, you kind of appreciate them when you have them. So for example, a computer now, I get frustrated if the internet is slow, and I'm talking about maybe it takes an extra 10 seconds for something to load, or 20 seconds. When it took me 20 minutes to load a website or whatever it was, it didn't bother me, because to me, just having the ability to get online was cool. So technology in that way has been really fantastic. So sometimes you have to appreciate certain things. Like in the summer, I spent a lot of time traveling. I would spend time in the airport because I would travel around the country and I teach teachers. And, you know, when a flight is delayed, you know, people get so mad, and I get frustrated too, you know. But then on the flip side, if I had to drive a car to some of these places, it would take days or like 20-something hours. So, you know, waiting an extra hour and then still getting there 16 hours before I would if I were driving, you know, you have to appreciate those things. You know, but one of the things that I was thinking about, you know, growing up that I really truly appreciated was when I was, I think, maybe 19 years old. I was going to school in Louisiana State University, and my father and I drove from New Jersey to Louisiana State so I could have a car down there. Because it's not like certain schools where you just have access to everything. You kind of needed a car. So we were in this car. It was like 30 hours. It felt like the longest trip ever. And I drove pretty much the majority of the way because I was young. I was excited. I was happy to be driving, right? Because that's another thing too, when you're young and you get your driver's license, you want to drive everywhere. And then when you're my age, you don't want to drive anywhere. You just want to relax. But either way, so we drove all the way down there, and I decided I was getting kind of tired. So obviously I didn't want to fall asleep at the wheel. So I asked my father, could you please drive the last leg? Because we were driving to my mother's house. So he gets in the car, he starts driving, and I'm like half asleep. And all of a sudden, like a fog comes in. And we're getting off the exit. Now, granted, at this point, we've been on the car for like 30 hours. So he gets off the exit, and the fog is really thick. And then all of a sudden, the fog disappears, and we notice there's no road. So, woof, off the ramp, we go sliding down and start pinballing against all these trees. My father had hit his head against the window. I had kind of banged my head against my window, but luckily nobody was hurt. But now we're down, it's in the middle of the night, and neither one of us have a cell phone because they really weren't a thing. So in order to get help, to help get the car out and, you know, just to make sure everything was okay, I had to walk. I had no idea where I was going. I didn't have GPS, right? So I just had to walk in one direction. I had to walk through like mud, and I had to like climb a fence and do all this high grass in order to get to the state police so they could come and pull our car out. Now the funny story about that, I mean, the only reason why I can say a funny story is because nobody was hurt. But the funny story about it is every single time the car made a right-hand turn, it made this really loud noise. Now granted, this car ended up being totaled, but it was like every time it made a right-hand turn. And every turn from the moment we got pulled out to the moment we got to my house was a right-hand turn, except into the driveway. And that one was just like, but everything else, it sounded like a screeching cat. But it would have been nice to have a cell phone, right? So when you were growing up without a phone and you went out, you kind of felt all like free, and you're like, ah, it's great. Now that you get technology, when you lose it and you don't have it, it really messes with your mind, right? So like if I'm pulling out of my driveway to come to school and I don't have my cell phone, I freak out. So I turn around and come back and get it because I'm like, what if I get in an accident? But obviously I was in an accident before and I managed to make it work. So, you know, I don't want you to take certain technologies for granted, but we also want to make them so they don't really control everything about us. So we want to make sure that we're grateful for certain things that maybe are not technology based. You know, I still listen to music now, except now I listen to iTunes or Amazon Music. I will admit I do love having a device in the house that I could just say, hey, play this, and they do. That's pretty awesome. I would have loved that as a kid. So just enjoy those, you know, types of things. So although we are home, right, and we can't really do much, imagine if you were like your parents' generation and you were stuck at home. You know, I remember a time before cable. You know, I remember there was like 7 channels. You know, and as far as video games go, there weren't that many. You know, and the way that we kind of survived and got through life was we did a lot of playing with our friends. I mean, we didn't call it play dates, right? We just kind of like banged on people's doors and we're like, let's go grab so-and-so and play basketball or baseball or whatever. But this is that kind of situation where you can't do that. But so you have such an advantage that you have the technology to make it more enjoyable, right? So be grateful for the situation you have, right? You know, use this as an opportunity to listen to music, watch some shows, or at least go outside. You know, if you have siblings where you can do things with that maybe you don't normally because you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to hang out with my brother, my sister, they're annoying, they drive me crazy. You know, well, maybe if you went outside and had some fun games, you know, with them, you get to kind of experience what your parents had to do when they were younger, but you're probably going to enjoy it because really playing outside and doing things like that is kind of like a rite of passage for a kid. It's something that everybody should do because it's just fun. I mean, it's just fun. I mean, I remember when my sister had kids and we would play wiffle ball with them because that's one of my all-time favorite games. Even now, I'd love to play it. It's just great. It brings you back to your childhood, except you guys are in your childhood. So here's what I would think, or I should say, I want you guys to try to do. You know, go through your house today or tomorrow and look at things in your house and maybe pick out things that you're really grateful for. You know, like for me, I'm grateful for the microwave. I can't even imagine what life was like before the microwave. You know, and streaming services, holy smokes, you guys don't know how lucky you are. You used to have to go and rent, you know, a VCR to watch, you know, movies. And even music, I know your parents probably remember this. Before CD players were put into cars, you'd have like a Discman. Probably like, what's that? First you had a Walkman. It was like a cassette player that you could walk with or run. And then Discman came out. That was our version of a CD player in the car, and you used to have to like pat it with pillows and towels because every time you hit a bump it was like scratch, or it would like, it just wouldn't work. And when you had cassettes in a car and you wanted to go to the next song, you had to hit a button, it was like to the next one, and it would drive you crazy. So you might have access to so many different things. So how about for at least today, and I'll do this myself because I'm not saying I'm not guilty of complaining. I think what we should do is find something in our house that we are really grateful for and appreciative for, and something that you're typically wouldn't think of. Your cell phone, I get it, your TV, etc., streaming services, but there's got to be other things in your house that you're grateful for that maybe, you know, could you survive without those things in this situation? I don't know. So on that note, okay, tomorrow's check-in, I have some ideas that were suggested to me by a student, so I'm definitely going to bring those up. And for that student, you know who you are, and thank you for the feedback. For everyone else, let's just try to have an amazing day. Stay positive, okay? I'm thinking about you guys, and hopefully you'll get some time in the sun today. It is beautiful out, as you can see. So nice and sunny. But until our next check-in, peace out and show some appreciation to your parents, because I know you saw this somewhere, but your parents graduated college without the help of Wikipedia and Google. So give them some props. And when we were kids and we needed help or information, when we went to the library, my parents would drop me off the library, give me a quarter for a payphone, and say, when you're ready, I'll come pick you up. So think about that, okay? So be grateful. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Until then, our next check-in, peace out.